My name is Sherry Swift. I am so excited about the opportunity to have a very important conversation about evolving into next level happiness and opportunity. You know, we learn early in life, right, that there is no happiness, real happiness, true happiness alone. I'm excited to be sitting here today with Nick and Latrice Posey. So excited and grateful for the opportunity to have the conversation with you two.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. I don't even know that everyone who's listening right now and who's going to follow us through this conversational journey even realizes just how many different points of conversation we're going to cover, but I think we should just jump right in, right?
I'm ready.
So first things first, congratulations. You've been married for how long now?
5 long years.
Okay, so wait a minute. I love the way that Nick looked at Latrice and then touched her on the leg like, baby, you better answer. So it's been how many years?
5 long years.
So it's been 5 long years. So congratulations. Listen, marriage is no joke.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
You know, it is the absolute challenge, right, to the real ride or die-ness and, no matter what, right? So congratulations. When you all said your vows and you started into and down the journey of happiness together, did you know that you were going to want to build a family together?
We did.
Yeah, that's something that she said she always wanted, a part of her life when she was a child, because we've been knowing each other since we were teenagers. So she's always mentioned that she wanted a family. Okay.
So you knew that you wanted a baby, right?
Yeah, I knew it was coming. I knew it came with the package. I knew it came with the deal that she put down. It was part of the deal.
Yeah, I got you. So you made a conscious effort when you got married to pause or start a family right away, because some people, everybody has a different preference, right? So some people say, we're married, bam, let's get started, right? But what was your thoughts? Were you like, we're married, but let's be together for a minute first and let's spend a little time? Talk to me about that a little bit. And Nick, if you don't mind, I would love to hear a male perspective on this. Like, what was important to you around this beginning of the marriage scenario, and what was important about that?
Well, for me, I've noticed that everyone doesn't have control over their lives at that point, as far as have they had children already, or will you be able to have children, or just planning that. And if you have the advantage of being able to plan, being able to build your family, I want to take full control of that and say, hey, well, let's take the first year or so to see what it's like to be married. We've never been married before. We've never lived together like this in this element. So let's focus on the mistakes and trials and tribulations that are ahead of us.
Yeah.
And just being new to marriage and being new to each other and figuring out each other and our habits and what's in stake for us in the future before we add another element to it when things may or may not be, difficult.
Yeah, so smart. Smart. What'd you think about that?
I agree. So with us going to premarital counseling, that was one of the things that he was just like, I need the first year of you by myself, to myself. Like he was very adamant about it. So I didn't think much of it. I was just like, we're still young. We were like in our early 30s. So we were just like, okay, I can give him a year where it's just us, and we just learn how to exist with one another. Because I know after, a lot of people have issues when they become empty nesters. So I'm like, let's make sure we know each other and understand each other and our ways, by ourselves. So I was fine with that.
Okay. So we intentionally took the first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that he said, look, I need the first year. Just give me a year before we start. So we took the first year, not even focused on building a family, but focused on building a foundation.
Correct.
Right?
That's right.
I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Because at the beginning and end of the day, young people grow up.
Yeah.
And they go away. I'm living proof of that. And when they grow up and they go away, you look around and you're left with the person that you chose. So I'm so excited that you guys took that route and gave that time to yourself. So when it was time and you said, okay, it's time now. It's time. Talk to me a little bit about what you discovered.
I discovered that it's not as easy as it seems, or at least it wasn't for us. I downloaded ovulation apps. I have multiple apps on my phone.
Well, wait, let me interrupt you for a second. So did you think when you said it's time, were you on birth control before?
No.
Were you guys using, what were you doing? Like just natural methods? What were you doing?
Just natural methods and being careful.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. And so then there wasn't like anything that you had to remove in order to make it available, right? To make it happen. You just started getting on purpose about it. And when did you kind of figure out, wait a minute, this is not happening for me as naturally as I thought it would?
So you said it right there. So I wasn't on birth control. So it was just kind of like, he, so to speak, would say he was the pull-out champ. Like that was his thing. Like he would say his pull-out game was super strong. And
well, obviously it might have been.
So we just got more intentional about actually going to that next level, or actually trying to intentionally get pregnant, trying to, pay attention to my menstrual and, when we were actually, intimate and things of that nature. So we just got more intentional, whereas before we were just
it became a job.
Oh, yeah. It definitely became a job.
How long were you on the job before you realized that maybe some things weren't just happening in the way that you hoped they would?
I would say probably about a year. We were just like, okay, let's maybe look into this and see what's going on. Even then, I don't think we thought there was anything wrong. We were just like, okay, maybe the timing is just off, or maybe I don't need to use the methods or the apps, or, maybe there's some strips or tests I should be using. We never thought it would be this, because we come from families where, like, for me, my siblings all, have children. So it's just like, of course, it's just, going to come naturally. But it didn't.
Yeah. So a year in, how were you feeling at that point? And I want to ask you a two-part question, and I'm asking this to the both of you, right? And I think it's very important that you're sitting here with us, Nick, and so I want to take a couple of seconds and just say thank you.
Oh, no problem.
For being here for this conversation. But I want to know from the both of you, how were you feeling a year in, and it's just not clicking the way you had hoped it would? And what were your family members feeling and communicating at that point?
Oh my God. You want to go first?
Okay, so after a year or so, we took the time to find out more about ourselves and find out why we haven't even had a mistake or accident or a scare. Well, not a scare for us, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And at first, I was pushing it off, so I wasn't in a rush, so there was no concern.
Right.
And now that I'm trying to do it, in the back of my mind, there was concern.
Yeah.
Because I'm more so like, okay, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Or what's wrong with her? Or what's wrong with the both of us?
Right.
The part about my parents, I got that all my life, so I got used to pushing it. When you gonna get me a grandbaby? When you gonna do this? When are y'all gonna do this? When are y'all gonna do that?
Did they know you were trying at that time?
At a certain point, they did. They knew we were trying, but they didn't know to what measures and what extreme we were going to do this.
Yeah.
I kept that in house or left it up to her because it was more close to home for her.
Yeah, got it.
I think for me, it's like, it was discouraging because then you're like, well, what's wrong with me or what's going on? I never thought it was anything wrong with him. I just figured like, okay, because I never had any scares. So I'm like, okay, is there something wrong with me? Like, so it was that. And then, family giving opinions, people that aren't doctors, so everybody's like, oh, well, you just keep trying, just keep trying. When you least expect it, it'll happen. Or, oh, you got to take some Geritol, or you got to hold your legs up like this, or you got to do this, or you got to do that. So everybody had all these unorthodox solutions.
Were you inhaling it?
We tried it.
I I was open. I was perceptive too. I was just like, well, it can't hurt, like, okay, just sit there and wait for a minute, and
it was,
like
times where she was like, okay, wait, I'm gonna stay here like this, and I would go and get everything together. I can't move. I have to stay with my legs up.
I mean, we did. I mean, I gave him Geritol. We both were taking Geritol. I'm like, I felt it was so like an old school method. Like we got the liquid, we got the pills. I mean, we were trying like all the different things people were suggesting. We have a supply
of supplements in our home.
Even though we knew
illegal at this point. The amount that we have.
I'll take the Geritol.
Yeah.
I think we knew, like, okay, we should probably go talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about. But everybody, had been productive reproductive results in our family.
It looked as though everybody.
Yeah,
because you never know what everybody's journey is.
Right.
Isn't that amazing how, and that's partly the reason why this is such an important conversation to have, because you just never know what's behind the curtain and how people realize their dreams, right? And not everybody has the same courage that you have to have the conversation. So it's a year
or two now at that point.
Two.
First year was out by ourselves.
Yeah. So it's almost 2 years in
now
at
we're
this
going
point.
2 years, yeah.
So 2 years into the marriage, and a full year of intentionally working to have a baby now at this point. And something's just not clicking. So what did we do next?
So at that point, I went to go and see my OB, and I had several tests ran to see if there was anything going on. And at the time, she ran different tests. They did ultrasounds, they did pelvic exam and everything. And they were like, okay, we're going to wait for, all these results to come back. And we need your husband to go and get a semen analysis. So they gave us like a waiver for like the first semen analysis was like free or something like that. It was just like, just take this form and go somewhere, and that's where it started.
That's the first time I've ever heard of anything as far as semen analysis. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
Like everything that she's introduced me to, this is my first time hearing about it.
Right.
And it's not because it's never happened. It's because
it wasn't in your reality.
Yeah, it's not a part of my reality. And even more so from that to like different surgeries or things of that nature, we keep quiet for some reason. We don't express and be transparent about it because we're ashamed or whatever reason. And that's what this platform for Latrice and I to help share that with people that are just like us in our same age group, same race, ethnicity, whatever. To let them know that this is normal.
Yes.
And that you might not have the best pull-out game. You might have something wrong.
Right. So when you had to go have this semen analysis done, was there anybody in your life who you were able to lean into, like maybe some of your boys or somebody in your family that you were like, hey, look, I got to go get this done? Or did you just kind of manage this all on your own?
At first, and she's never asked me that, but at first,
that's a great question.
At first, I did manage it on my own, but I have a real close friend of mine named DeAndre, and I told him about what was going on. And it kind of opened his eyes too, because at this point he'd already had 2 sons, and he never said anything to me about those type of complications. So I was wondering if he was familiar with that in a man.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness you had somebody that you could kind of chat with, because I'm sure that relieved a little bit of the stress, right? Okay. So tell me what happened. So you went and you had all your tests done. You went and you had your semen analysis. What did you guys find?
So when I had my test done, it revealed that I had fibroids, which I believe it wasn't anything that was new for me, but they had made it clear that based off where they were located, it wouldn't affect me reproductively, or at least that's what I was told initially. So they ran tests on like my fallopian tubes and my uterus, and they were just like, yeah, there's a couple in there, but no big deal. It's not gonna, affect anything. You'll be fine. So then he had the semen analysis done, and they told us that the mobility and motility were low. So at this point, we start going to see different OBs and just trying to get clarity.
Yeah.
And a couple were just like, we can try this procedure called IUI. We went to see one OB, and he was just like, there is absolutely no way possible you will get pregnant unless you guys do IVF, because the sperm is so delicate that it's going to take an act of God to get pregnant. And he made me upset.
Wow.
He made me upset, but he
was honest.
He was honest. He was the most honest. The rest of them were more hopeful, but in that moment, I didn't want to receive it. Like, I didn't want to hear what he was saying.
Do you think that's what you needed to hear, though?
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely pushed us, like, okay, well, guess we got to get this started, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about your processing that information, Nick.
I felt helpless. Like there was nothing I could do at that point, you know, except try to console her, you know, verbally or, you know, spiritually, or, you know, rub her back and things of that nature. But it felt like there was nothing that I could do once she heard that news. Once she delivered that news to me, it was like, okay, you mean to tell me that we're going to have to go through some special procedure that may not even work?
Yeah.
There's still no guarantees, you know.
Right.
And I've been selfish for so long, and I was trying to give myself to her and be selfless. And then finally, I put myself in a vulnerable state where, okay, I'm giving my all to you, and I couldn't give. It was nothing I could give her. There was nothing I could give her to make her feel complete, knowing that this is something that may or may not happen for her.
Isn't it terrible or heartbreaking when you finally get to the point in life where you love somebody so much that you would do anything for them, and then something happens and you can't do anything to fix it? It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. So what did that look like? And I think this is important for everyone who has ever been in a marriage that experienced difficulty and roadblocks, because guess what? That's what this is.
Right.
I don't care how much you love somebody. I don't care how much in love you are with somebody. The kumbaya gets a little bit more difficult when there are crumbs in the bed all over the place, right? And so the conversation turns into who put the crumbs in the bed. And instead of just dealing with getting the crumbs out of the bed, we're like pointing fingers like, you were the last person to eat in the bed and you were the last person, right? So now we got crumbs in the bed. How did your marriage move from that position of vulnerability into action and resolution?
So I know for me, I wanted to make sure I didn't have any type of negative impact on his self-esteem, or like I wanted to be supportive, because no, that's not one of, like, when you get ready to get married, you go get your certificate or you go to the court, like, you don't think like, let's go get you tested and find out, you know, does it work, or, you know, like, you know, we didn't think about anything like that. But I didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable, but I know that he knew how important it was to me to have a family. So I tried to, I guess, not talk too much about it, because I didn't want to seem like I was pointing a finger or I was pointing the blame. But at the same time, it was hurtful, because sometimes, like, we would go to family functions and we'll be around like his cousins or different people, and they would be like, you guys still haven't had any kids yet? What's wrong with you? Do you have?
What's wrong with her?
They automatically assumed it was me, and it was just kind of like, okay, like, it's one thing to be vulnerable and to be there for him, but then it's like the fingers getting pointed at you, and it's just like, oh, do you have PCOS? Do you have this? Do you have that? And it's just, people automatically started diagnosing me with things. And at this time, all of my tests are clear.
And some of them, even jokingly, they don't know how deep it was. So they don't understand that these jokes is serious.
There's nothing funny that's happening right now.
Right, not at all.
Right?
But they think like, well, what's wrong with you? You know, and they make certain little jokes. Well, y'all not doing this or that, or
you know. Let me just say this, and I think it's important for people to hear that are watching and listening. Right. We make a conscious decision that we're going to partner and we're going to marry. And when we decide that we're going to partner and we're going to marry with one another, we 100% make a commitment that this now is my person. And the conversation that happens within these parameters is not available to anyone else outside of these parameters. And the amount of intrusion that happens from people who love you is ridiculous. And I think that we would love to think, especially in our culture, in our community, we would love to think that it's never anybody's intention to say anything offsetting or negative, that they're really just trying to work through it on their own. But I want everybody out there to know that people who are unhappy, whether they are your mother, your brother, your sister, or your cousins, people who are unhappy don't like to see other people who are happy. So any opportunity that they get to come in and spread negativity and to shine a light on something that other people may see you celebrating, they take that opportunity. So I am so proud of you for being able to manage that scenario and to be able to push through. What I think I hear her saying, Nick, is that you guys really didn't have much of an interruption in your love as a result of this challenge. Is that right?
No, not at all. If anything, it made it stronger. It made it stronger because it showed that a weakness that we didn't even know we had, to be there for each other and saying, hey, like, no matter what someone says about our situation, we're going to work through this.
Yeah.
Because, mind you, these were, this whole process was just so tedious.
Yeah.
So we're gonna. I got a whole shelf full of medicine, and you got this, and we doing this together.
That's
and we're
right.
gonna do it together.
That's
we're
right.
not gonna hide or anything. We're gonna do. She made me the weekly pill bottle thing, and she would question me as soon as I got home, like it was like that was the thing I had to check in. Where's your pill bottle? Did you take everything you need to take today? And I mean, it was more than one. It was more than 6-7 pills a day to get myself in position so I could produce, but it became a game for us instead of being shame.
Yes.
It was fun. Like, even though pills are disgusting, but I knew what the end game was. But it was just fun that she was on top of it. I was on top of it. Did you take your stuff? Did you do what you're supposed to do? Because we have a goal we're trying to meet.
Yes.
Throw the shame out the window. We
That's
have a goal
right.
we're trying to meet.
That's right. That right there is love demonstrated. And there's a yoke that brought you guys together that just can't be separated now, right? So I think that's amazing. Did you ever end up doing anything about your fibroids, or what's the situation there?
Yes, so eventually I had surgery to have the fibroids removed, but that didn't take place until after a lot of other stuff transpired that led me to the decision that I absolutely had to get them removed.
Were you at that point when you decided to have, and I'm touching on this a little bit because in our culture, fibroids are just not unusual. It's just not unusual. The percentage is something crazy. Do you know what the percentage is?
I've read articles that say it's as high as 90%, and I've read articles that say it's as high as 60%. I just know either way, it's extremely high in the African American community.
Right. It's like, good luck trying to meet a woman who's African American saying, have you ever had an issue with fibroids? Good luck finding somebody who says, no, never had any fibroid issues. So it's something that we deal with. So you making a decision to finally deal with these fibroids, was it because you were still pushing forward and hoping to become pregnant, or was it some other issue?
A little bit of both. So one, it was because we had an unsuccessful attempt, and after going to see several different IVF doctors, they confirmed that one of my fibroids was the size of a softball. And this was after years after, taking medication and different stimulants to go through the process, and they pretty much just said it was large. So to implant an embryo in there, it would be taking up, too much space. So that was part of it. And then two, with fibroids, your menstrual cycle is extremely heavy. It had got to the point where we were in Vegas one time. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Tell them.
So we were in Vegas. We were on the Strip. We had just went to some restaurant, and we're getting ready to leave. And I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. And then I woke up. Like, I had passed out. Like, I had completely went unconscious. And I guess I must have told them I was okay. And then I passed out again. And I woke up and, like, my lip was busted. And we were in Vegas for, like, my birthday. And I just remember, like, blood being inside, like, my mouth. And it from there, it just spiraled. It just got worse and worse. Like, it got to the point where I was doing iron infusions to get my blood levels up, just to be able to even have the surgery to have the fibroids removed. And I was just bleeding so much. Like, they gave me this crazy enormous pad one time, and I was at the iron infusion, getting ready to get an iron infusion. I'm like, I'm getting ready to pass out. And they were just like, and they looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, no, like, I can feel it getting ready to come. And then no sooner than that, I passed out. They rushed me to the ER, and it was just like, something's got to give. Like, these things have got to go.
Yeah. So it was actually, the fibroids were more of, it was becoming a life or death situation for you and for the care and wellness of you, right? So we had to put the idea of the baby to the side so that we could take care of Latrice, right? Because nothing matters more to Nick than Latrice, right? So it's kind of like, we got to make sure you're okay. And so you had the fibroid surgery, and you know, years and years and years ago, I had something called an ablation, where they burned. I had again, you know, a fibroid issue, and I would have 14, 15, 16 days of a menstrual cycle, 17, 18 sometimes. And it was just becoming worse and worse and worse. And back then, my doctor back then, I think she was performing these, and it was an idea that was new, and they burned the lining of the entire lining of your uterus. And now I was way done at that point, like being concerned about having children or anything like that. And, you know, she's like, I think your cycle will go away. And it did. It's been gone for years. I have not had a cycle for 20 some years because of that. I would be very offended if anything ever showed up again at this point. But I guess the point is that there's so many options for us as women. So if you are a woman who's out there that's struggling as a result of fibroids, you know, go to a great OBGYN and find out what your options are, because it is life or death for us. It's life or death, and I think we kind of have a tendency to tolerate.
And I think it's important to explore your options too, because I went to see one surgeon and I felt uncomfortable. He was like blinking and like doing this squinting thing like the entire time, and I was just kind of like
he couldn't see.
Like, you can't see. Like, you're gonna cut on me, and you're like, you're looking at me, and you're doing this. So I literally, like, I called this like Sunday before the surgery, and I thought I was gonna leave a voicemail and just back out the surgery, but he picked up the phone, and I'm like, who picks up the phone on the weekend? Like,
right.
He was like, yes, Mrs. Posey, and I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Not with you, dude.
So yeah, no. So I had a doctor that I really, really wanted to go with, but she was booked for months and months and months. But I waited for her, and she was amazing. Everybody else that told me they were going to do the surgery had to cut, like I was going to have a C-section scar without having any kids. Yeah. And with her, she was like, oh, no, we'll pull all the fibroids through your belly button. And I was like, what? But she did it. It was insane.
So recovery time for you in that was what?
A few weeks, maybe.
Okay, so
oh god.
See, this is what I love about this conversation, because you know we can go. It really wasn't bad. I was doing dishes and I was doing laundry and everything was amazing. And then your husband is like, well, hold on a second.
So, first, you know, joke aside, for everything she's saying, listen to your body. Don't ignore these things. She's talking about how like cycles may have been heavy and things like, oh, you might just think I just have a heavy cycle. No, like, go get yourself looked at, because that's where we're finding out that she had these fibroid issues. Now, back to the question.
Yes.
When it comes to her in recovery, because this is not the first surgery she's had. So when it comes to her in recovery, she's more if they tell her 3 months, you can put her at a month. You could book it at 3 weeks, because she's the person that's not going to want to sit down and lay up and heal. She wants to get back out into the world and get back productive, and she feels like that's when she's, you know, she can get her mind away from it. Yeah. You know, so when she said 3 weeks, it might have been 3 weeks, but would have been supposed to have been a month and a half, maybe
Yeah.
2 months, because I mind you that particular surgery they had to rebuild her belly button area from pulling those 12 fibroids out, or was it 12 and they were only able to get 10? Or was it 14? They were able to get 12 because 2 I think are still there. They were behind in a certain area,
and it was like super tiny, so they couldn't.
And they were able to string them all together and pull them all out.
That is amazing.
Yeah, they showed me a picture of them all sewn together. It was crazy. She went inside. She cut like a small incision, like here and here, and then in my belly button. Went in with a tool and literally picked them up, sewed them together, put them in a bag, chopped them up so she can bring them through my belly button.
Wow.
I was just like, oh my God.
All while it's still in her stomach.
Like, it was crazy. And it was supposed to be an outpatient procedure. I was supposed to go home that day. But because the surgery took a little longer than anticipated, they kept me overnight.
That was supposed to be outpatient?
Yes, I was supposed to go home the same day. It was crazy. She is amazing.
Yeah, so 3 weeks. She was.
I'm sure they told me to like sit still for like 2 months or something maybe.
So where's the mindset at this point? So now you've had the surgery. You guys are healing up, right? You're caring for her, loving her, trying to get her to sit down a little bit longer than she normally would. And are there any conversations happening right now at all about baby, family? What do we do next? Is there anything like that happening?
So like you mentioned, I don't know how to sit still. So we were actually literally doing 2 things at once. So while I was preparing for my surgery to have my fibroids removed, we had already had discussions about having a surrogate. So say for instance, November 11th, I had my surgery to have my fibroids removed. My surrogate had our embryo transferred on November 18th. So it was literally all happening in that same week. Like, boom, we're getting rid of fibroids. Boom, we're making a baby and putting a baby inside. So.
How do you keep up?
Well, I don't know. I mind you that that decision, even for surrogacy, was after 2 failed attempts, and so that was made her more proactive about getting the fibroid surgeries because she still would like to carry if possible.
Right.
So that's something that's down the road, but we're conditioning her body for that attempt to do so.
Yes.
But while we're doing that,
let's put a baby over here.
Exactly. How many do we have on ice? Okay, well, this is what we're going to do. And I'm just yes man at that point. I'm like, whatever is going to keep a smile on her face.
Right.
And keep the train moving forward.
Right.
I'm all with it.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about surrogacy. Because there's a certain mindset that you have to, you get to a point where you say, okay, I realize that right now, not maybe forever, I won't be able to do this, but right now I can't do this, right? We've tried. We had a couple of failed attempts. We need to go a different way in order to manifest this right now. So who said surrogacy? And talk to me about what your thinking was initially. And I have to ask because understand, our culture, this is not something that we typically talk about, right? And so I love the fact that all of this conversation is outside of the norm as it relates to what our culture will normally reflect. What did that conversation look like between the 2 of you when you said, surrogate? Let's go that route.
So when I talked to him about wanting to share the experience, and he was completely supportive, even with talking about the semen analysis, like that's not something men want to talk about. Like men don't want to talk about the fact that they have fertility issues. Yeah. Nobody wants to admit that. But it was important to me because I didn't have anybody to lay out a blueprint or tell me, hey, you got to do this and you got to do that. Like I had people that were going through IVF that can tell me about that. But nobody could tell me about surrogacy or alternative options if IVF didn't work. Yeah. So I wanted to share. And even with me sharing, like people wouldn't like the status or they wouldn't like the post, but they would reach out to me in my inbox. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going through that right now. Or what can I do? Or, people had questions, but it's so hush-hush that it's just like it needs to be something people discuss.
Why do you think that surrogacy is so hush-hush?
Well, I don't think it's just surrogacy though. I think it like you said, the surrogacy, the semen analysis,
difficulty.
I'm getting the same inboxes till this day. I just told her about one. I think it was last week, and I referred her to.
You
her
think
Instagram
you were
page.
getting inboxes before? You wait till after this video it comes out. You're gonna be getting.
Because a man, I feel like just talking to other black men out there.
Yeah.
Like I had all the action. It just wasn't making her pregnant.
Right,
so that doesn't mean anything. Just because you doing all of that, like that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So you will tell yourself something to help yourself sleep at night. But the truth is, go get yourself checked out. The surrogacy thing, she wanted to be more transparent about it and tell the journey to everyone. And I'm just open book with her. Like I have nothing to hide, and I'm truly confident in the information that we need to give out to our people.
Right. So surrogacy.
So the way it got started, it was, I think, December 2020. I can't remember exactly. It's been a lot. But we had made 2 healthy embryos, and those were literally the only embryos we had, and it was a struggle to even get to that point. And in my mind, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I want twins. I want to be one and done. Like, give me twins. And I found a doctor that was like, you want twins? I'll give you twins. And like, he said it just like that. And I loved his confidence. So in December, we went through the transfer process where they go and they put the embryos that have been created inside of your uterus for them to attach and for them to stick. So I just, in my mind, I'm like putting my legs up, like I'm going to be pregnant.
All the things.
Like all the things. Like by Christmas, it's going to be an announcement. Yes, she's pregnant with twins. And it didn't work out that way. It didn't happen. And I was devastated when I went to the doctor's office and they were just like, just so you know, you're not pregnant. I'm like, no, like I still haven't had my period. Like it's going to happen. Like you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe one of them took. But there's no way neither one of them took because the quality was so high and we had them genetically tested beforehand. So after the fact, he was just like, with you having to go through so much just to even get a healthy embryo, the next time we get a healthy embryo, you should probably consider a surrogate.
So your doctor is the one who said, look.
And was that before the surgery, right?
Yeah,
that was before the surgery. That was before.
Gotcha.
One of the doctors saying, "Hey, we could still do it with the fibroids in there," and we just went along with it. It shouldn't affect it. Yeah, it shouldn't affect anything, and we went along with it, and it wasn't successful.
Okay.
And we went through some other people who were able to get a different angle.
Gotcha.
At the fibroids to see that it was more severe than they were letting on.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't have the same equipment. Or were able to gauge it that way, but they were able to see and then once they told us, "Hey, whoa, it wouldn't have made it." Right. They said, "I don't know why they put them in there. I don't know if it made it, but I don't know if what's truth, what's not. Right. We don't know how they're playing it. Right. And that's why we're not using names or anything like that. It's just this is what we experienced. Yeah.
Well, I think that what your story does is it's a testimony that this is such a hugely important process that it cannot be dependent upon one person's opinion. People practice medicine. They practice medicine. So, so you can go from person to person and receive, so many different, diagnoses and suggestions, prescriptions. So I'm glad that you found the person. So your doctor says, surrogacy. We get a good one, we're going to go surrogacy. So what happened next?
We were at a standstill. We got the bill and we were just like...
what does that bill look like? And so I want to interrupt for just a second.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the story of my little miracle, Ashton. Please, please, please like and subscribe. You can follow me at iCalledLP or follow me and like and subscribe, please, on YouTube at Real Talk Real Estate with Latrice Posey.